So what's going on with now this whole thing? I wanted to touch on this point because look, I have a lot of respect for Dustin Dvorak. I have a respect even for Greg Doyle. But this somewhat fabrication or this spin that Trayce Jackson-Davis had a 3-point shot all along and didn't use it because Coach Woodson didn't want him to use it. I just can't buy that. Not from my 3 years covering him. I mean, the kid couldn't even hit a consistent 14 or 15-foot jump shot. I just don't get it. Like that, he's an inside player. He's a nice player, and I have a lot of respect certainly for Trayce and what he did in terms of, bringing the program back kind of from the depths of the Archie Miller era to where they are now. But you honestly think if the kid was charting well as a 3-point shooter in practice, they wouldn't have used it, or he wouldn't have gotten to the NBA quicker? I don't buy that at all. I mean, come on.
I'm not going to disagree with you. It's not that he cannot shoot a 3-point shot, but I can shoot a 3-point shot.
Yeah.
There's a difference between shooting a 3-point shot in practice and shooting a 3-point shot in game-like situations on the go, in flow, blah, blah, blah.
Exactly. With a hand in your face. I agree. Yeah. Yeah.
And if he was able to do that even from 12 foot, he would have, and he would be a definitive first-round draft pick.
Yeah.
Without question. And so now, can he have developed one? Sure. He's an athlete. One of the things that I remember that from where was Albany, the NCAA stop in Albany, they were going through their warm-up routines, and I think it was the starters that were down on another end, and they were just going kind of in circular motions, shooting from the 5 different spots, corner, 2 wings, and then that on the top. And they would just keep rotating, and I was in this corner, and then Trayce was in this corner, and I just kept watching him come around, and these were all 3-point shots. And he shot and he hit some, but again, it's not that he's not capable of shooting the ball 22 feet, 2 inches, or whatever the distance is right now. It's being able to do that consistently at that level with a 6'10" guy up in your face, or sticking an elbow in your ribs, or whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
That's selling papers.
Yeah.
I have no problem, but they have a job to do. They're selling papers. Doyle does a nice job of bringing emotion, bringing stories to people that are more emotional than sports, I think. If
human
that makes
interest,
sense.
Yeah, human interest, of course. Yeah.
Yeah. And so that always is appealing to people, and it sells papers.
Yeah.
And I can tell you what, being negative or telling the truth when it's not popular is not popular. And I can tell you right now, we would have a bigger audience. I promise you we'd have a bigger audience. And I love this term because I borrowed it from someone who was a listener early on, but we're not a bootlicking, butt-kissing kind of a show. If it's this, we're going to say it's this. If it's that, we're going to say it's that. It is what it is.
Yeah.
And not everybody wants that. A lot of people would rather be coddled and
I think
so, it's going to be okay.
I still think people want the truth and honest. And take a look at a guy like
audience does.
Take a look at a guy like Charles Barkley. What makes him so popular? He just kind of tells it like it is.
Exactly, and he's funny as hell.
Yeah, and that's true too. And he's entertaining, and he does it in a way that but he does it in a way that ruffles.
If I was as funny as Charles Barkley, we'd be talking about something different too. Probably he's a funny man. He's a funny man. Yeah. Did you see them laughing last week when they carried Anthony Davis off? They took Anthony Davis off the floor in a wheelchair or something, and they were on the set and they could not stop cracking up about it. And then they were just making like little gestures. And Charles Barkley started laughing so hard at Shaq that Kenny, or not Kenny, but what's the host?
Ernie Johnson.
Anyway, Ernie Johnson. And then he's talking to Kenny the Jet, and apparently Kenny the Jet rolled his chair back a little bit, but he used his hands like this, and then Barkley just bust out. You'd have to been there, I guess. But
their show is so good. I mean, it's really great. So how about the Nuggets? Denver sweeping. Well,
not only that, the Lakers are about to be swept too, and which is crazy.
It's done. They got swept last night. Yeah.
Okay. I did not see that. So
LeBron looked very old. He did.
I was getting ready to ask, has it ever, do you recall it happening in the conference finals where both teams get swept or sweep their way into the championship? I mean, that's got to be a rarity.
Yeah. And Miami is up 3-0 and they have a chance to do it tonight, but I'll tell you what.
Oh, it's Miami that hasn't finished it. Okay.
Miami hasn't finished it yet. They could finish it tonight, but I'll tell you what, Jokic, I think is, he's just an animal. He's just different. He might be the best player in the NBA right now. But the Heat, to their credit, I mean, Jimmy Butler he's money. He's clutch, and they've got a bunch of really good role players around him. And of course, you've got Eric Spoelstra, who's done a great job there over the years, and Pat Riley pulling the strings. I'm just reminded of that. Do you ever hear your last breath story with Pat Riley?
No.
This is back 15 or 20 years ago when he was, I think, his second stint coaching the Heat. He kind of like told Shaquille O'Neal, like, you have to coach like it's your last breath. And he ducked his head in ice water for 8 minutes to try to show mind control. Can you imagine like this 60-year-old coach dunking his head in ice water for 8 minutes?
Who did that?
Pat Riley did that. Yeah.
Well, first of all,
trying to show that you're.
How do you hold your breath for 8 minutes?
Apparently, according to Shaq, he did it. Maybe it's a little bit of an exaggeration, but he held his breath. He held his breath in an ice bucket of water for a significant amount of time. Let's put it that way.
Well,
as a motivational.
I will say that any amount of time is something. But once he got past the point of freezing, he was probably good.
Okay, here's someone saying not enough sample size to say that he couldn't shoot it. It's the bottom line is if he could have shoot it, they would have used him to shoot it. I mean,
there's no better phrase than this. If you could have, you would have.
Exactly. They would have. The coaches would have. I mean, Jalen Smith left after his sophomore year at Maryland because he added a 3-point shot. He made millions. He was a lottery pick. You can't tell me that if Trayce developed and had consistency in that shot in practice, they wouldn't have employed that, and it wouldn't have helped his game even more. You
think it wouldn't have helped the team? That would have changed.
Exactly.
That would have changed the entire dynamic of that team, especially once they lost Xavier Johnson.
Yeah, exactly. And, I mean, they had Race Thompson shooting 3-point shots, who's, 28% 3-point shooter. You don't think that they would have had Trayce doing that if he charted that way in practice, which, none of us really know about. But, to say that, I don't buy it. I'm sorry.
And he says that he was told to never to shoot it, which we have.
He was never told not to shoot it.
Oh.
Yeah, that's what he said. He was never told not to shoot it.
Okay, then, yeah. Why would he has no confidence in shooting?
He just didn't have the confidence in a shot, and he's not that kind of a player, and that's fine. But
it boggles my mind. I'm going to tell you, for somebody that played the game as long as he did, to be involved the way he had to be, even if he was with him or not, but having a father in the NBA. Being a big guy the whole time, you're a basketball player. You're coming up as a big guy. How do you not? Everybody has a freaking jump shot. There is nobody out there there's nobody on Indiana's team that doesn't, and I don't care how tall they are. Khalil Ware has a jump shot, and he's 7 foot.
Yeah, but it's hard to do. I mean, it's not the easiest skill. It's not the easiest skill.
No, I'm not saying to be prolific, but you still have it in your tool,
in your arsenal.
You have it. Yeah, you have it.
Listen, I watched 15 years ago. I watched Al Horford develop just a mid-range jump shot between his sophomore and his junior year at Florida, and now he shoots out to the 3-point line. But that made him millions, and I mean, he was a lottery pick the following year because he had that 15 to 18 foot shot that he could knock down consistently to complement his game. I mean, Trayce, I remember the Minnesota game his freshman year. He had a big 15, 18 footer, but consistently, he just didn't have the confidence in that elbow jump shot. Even that elbow jump shot, forget about the 3-point shot.
5 Lefts again says Trayce hit threes in the drill just fine. All this talk about hitting him with the hand in your face is BS. How often does a center shoot threes in the games when a hand is in their face, let alone hit them? He's not going to be playing center in the NBA. He's 6'9".
Yeah. That's the issue too. Yeah, that he's not
a center. He's at best. He's a 4. So that's exactly what he has to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, he has to have that ability. Yeah. If he doesn't, then that's something that you don't have that every other 4 around you has. And so that'll be a difference. That's a difference between making the league or not, and the difference between staying in the league or not. You have to have skills that set you apart. So what's his going to be?
Well, he has the body of a 3-and-D guy, which is like, kind of like a rangy guy that can defend on the perimeter and so forth. But his skills are predominantly low post. But he's got great quickness.
Offensively.
I mean, the one thing about Trayce is, he is 6'9", but he does play bigger than 6'9" because of his vertical, and that's what's gonna, all the lobs and the alley-oops and so forth. That's what makes him dynamic. He is definitely an NBA athlete, and I think that will translate very well in the league.
Andy says if he can grow to shoot it at a 30-35% clip, he'll be a threat. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and it can happen. Because, hey, look, you have no more school now. You're a professional. You could but you have to live in the gym. You have to work at it. It's not going to come easy.
You have to want that.
Yeah.
And obviously, I'm not trying to be disparaging.
Yeah.
But hasn't wanted it bad enough up until this point. I mean, it seems. Again, not trying to be disparaging. Fred says the TJD has a few records in the IU books. Yeah, that's
for
great,
sure,
but
sure.
that has nothing to do with what we're talking about. No one is saying anything bad about him. They're disparaging him. We're talking about his potential future as an NBA player.
And the 3-point shot. Yeah. Where is he projecting right now? Is he projecting as a first or second rounder, or where is he?
No, mid late second round, I think.
Yeah.
I think he goes.
I hope he gets picked. He's a great kid.
I think he goes mid. I think he goes somewhere. Mid, right in the middle of second, either right in front of dead middle or just after dead middle.
And listen, that Big Ten tournament his junior year. I mean, he willed Indiana to an NCAA tournament berth when they were dead in the water. After losing to Rutgers on senior day, if you remember, and everything. And we got a trip to Portland out of it, right? It wasn't that bad. And
there you go.
Dayton, and, that was kind of the beginning of the Woodson era and building the momentum to, where the following year they got to and he came back and got to the second round. And now, obviously, he's gone, but they've set a foundation where maybe they can go a little further. And I always say this to fans, like Indiana fans, all you're entitled to is progress. So, if Woody next year can get to the Sweet 16 and the Elite 8, that's a step in the right direction. But if they take a step back, then he deserves the heat.